Hi, this is Yvonne, and I'm here to explain the second step in the guardianship process for adult guardianship here in Prince George's County. If you've been following my story, I went over the first part, which is the guardianship application, which I explained the inaccuracies and the incomplete application that was filed on my mother and how she lost her rights as a human being and her freedom in an unwarranted and unjustified guardianship. Now I'm going to explain to you the physician certificates that were filed in this same case. Okay? Now, the physician certificate, Maryland Rule 10-202, A2. It says, note to physician. A petitioner will use this certificate in a legal proceeding to request a guardian for the patient named below. The petitioner must submit the original certificate. Your answers must be specific and detailed, which are underlined, and based on your personal examination of the patient, which is also underlined. Address each issue contained in the certificate that may interfere with the patient's ability to make responsible decisions about health care, food, clothing, shelter, or property. You may complete the form yourself or have another person complete it under your supervision. Attach additional sheets if necessary. Your testimony about this information may be required at a hearing. Now, let me just remind you that I did request the physicians to come in which the judge totally ignored and overlooked. So the judges never appeared in court to verify their statements, although the two statements from the two different doctors were conflicting. Okay, so I'm going to start by going over the one physician was, of course, my mother's primary care physician, who she had been seeing for about 18 months. And we're going to call him Dr. Y. And then the second doctor is the doctor who was working along with my niece, the guardian's daughter. They were working, she was working at a facility with this doctor, and we're going to call him Dr. B. And I'm going to go over what they said, okay? First, they had to explain, they had to put the patient's name, which is my mother's name, and the address, which was not her address at the time. This is my sister's address. So remember, on June the 11th, the Adult Protective Services unlawfully removed my mother out of her house and made her go with my sister, which she did not have the authority to do. She did not follow standard operating procedures, and she did what she wanted to do. She was supposed to have been investigating my sister for exploitation. Instead, because they were friends, she came and she met with my sister instead of meeting with me, which I was the person who filed the exploitation on behalf of my mother at my mother's request. And she came in and she took and met with my sister, whom she should have been investigating. Really, she should have recused herself from the case, but she didn't. A lack of integrity is what she had. Okay? Excuse me. So the patient name, the patient's address. Again, I said one doesn't have an address because it clearly would have said my mother's address was where her home was. Okay? Now, the second part of this is they asked the doctor's information. One of the doctors, Dr. B, did not include his telephone number, which is one of the requests on the application. So therefore, that makes that part incomplete. Next, they had to list their certification and what they specialize in. Now, the primary care doctor, Dr. Y, he specializes in internal medicine, okay? And he has been seeing my mother for approximately 18 months at this time. And he say, I serve as her primary care physician. Dr. B, which I told you, was my niece's co-worker, which is clearly a conflict of interest. He has known my mother for 1 day, and he was doing his second opinion on the capacity with background of DAT. Now, DAT means dementia, Alzheimer's type. Okay? Now, the one physician, Dr. Y, did his exam on let me get the proper date, on 6/14. Now, remember, my mother was removed illegally from her home by the Adult Protective Services worker on 6/11. So in 3 days later, my sister was taking my mother to a doctor to claim her incompetent, okay? And then the next one with Dr. Y was done on 6/21. So we talking about in a matter of 3 days and 10 days, okay? These are appointments. One last, Dr. Y's was 45 minutes. Dr. B's was 60 minutes, okay? And then it says, I performed or ordered the following tests. Dr. B, MMSE, General Physical Exam, and PHQ-9, UTO. And Dr. Y ordered a history and physical exam, a mini cog, a CSC, and a comprehensive metabolic panel. Okay. Now, the next thing they said, I communicated with the patient in the following manner. They both stated English. Next, it says physical and mental conditions. Okay. Physical condition. It has it has 2 boxes. One that says none, and one that says the patient has the following physical diagnosis. Now, on the primary care physician's statement, he wrote the patient has the following physical conditions. He checked that box. He says dementia, probable Alzheimer's, hypertension, and chronic kidney disease stage 3, which is not true. On the Dr. B, he didn't check either box, but he wrote HTN, anemia, DAT, weight loss variable. Now, he only seen my mother one time, and only one time, so I don't even really know how he could determine if she had anemia all in one day or weight loss or whatever variable. I'm not sure. Okay? So the next part is the overall physical health. One doctor wrote poor, and one doctor wrote fair. To me, that's a conflict. Overall physical health they both stated decline. And the Dr. B wrote gradual decline is pragmatically expected. DT, DAT. Okay? Now, the other doctor did not give any explanation. Neither doctor gave an explanation of why her physical health was poor or fair. Okay? Mental conditions is the next part. Now, again, it's 2 boxes. One states none, and one states the patient has the following mental diagnosis. Okay. Now, her primary care physician wrote no mental conditions. Okay, he checked the box, none. Okay. The next doctor, which is Dr. B, he didn't check any box. So therefore, I would say that's incomplete. However, he wrote under the second box, the patient has the following mental diagnosis. He put DAT, and then it says mild, moderate, or severe. He wrote severe. However, her primary care doctor wrote none. So therefore, it was nothing listed as far as axis 1, axis 2, or other under that questioning of mental conditions. And the Dr. B, which is the doctor she has known for one day, he said overall mental health will decline. Okay? If improvement is possible, the individual should be reevaluated, and he left that blank, weeks. The mental diagnosis affect functioning as follows. DAT with behavior. Okay? So again, that is clearly a conflict because one doctor is saying one thing and another doctor is saying something else. Her primary care doctor is saying there's no mental conditions, and this other doctor is saying she has severe mental conditions. I find that to be a conflict. Let's go to the next part. The next part, it says, have any temporary causes of mental impairment been evaluated and treated, such as depression, bereavement, or delirium? Yes or no? Well, Dr. B, he checked no, and then he checked yes and circled it. And it says explain. He said depression, but PHQ-9 attempted but failed, UTL. Now, on her primary care doctor, whom she had been seeing for the longest amount of time, he did not answer this question. He didn't put yes, he didn't put no, he didn't put uncertain. He did not put an explanation. Have any reversible causes of mental impairment been evaluated and treated? E.g., coma? Question. Again, her primary care physician did not answer this question, nor did he give an explanation, because he stated there were no mental conditions. So I guess he never answered any questions under that section, and they were all left blank. So therefore, that is incompleted, or then again, maybe because he said none, it was no reason for him to answer anything under that section. But this other doctor, who've only known my mother for one day, he said no reversible causes of mental impairment have been evaluated. Okay? Now, then it goes to the next part. It says list all medications. Okay? So the medication she was taking was listed. Okay? Now, one of the medications is the donepezil, and that's for Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, my sister had one of the doctors to put my mother on this medication. Now, if there's no mental conditions and her primary care doctor put her on this medication, I'm trying to understand why. Okay? But however, they had the same medications listed. I'm guessing my sister had to give them that list. On the next part, it says reversible or temporary somatic factors. Are there factors such as hearing, vision, or speech impairment that incapacitate the patient that could improve with time, treatment, or assistive devices? So the Dr. B, he wrote yes. Hearing deficit B/C. It's this explanation. Now, Dr. Y, which is the normal doctor, he stated no. So it was nothing for him to explain. Again, that is clearly a conflict. One says yes, one says no. Okay, so which one did the judge believe? For the cognitive function, alertness level of consciousness, overall impairment. Again, Dr. B wrote severe. He only knew her for one day, not even for a day, only for the time of the visit, or the supposedly be visit. Described below, alert to say only. Now, Dr. Y, which is her normal primary care doctor, it says cognitive function, alertness level of consciousness. He wrote mild. Okay, so here we got one saying severe and one saying mild. So that's clearly a conflict. Memory, cognitive, and executive functioning. Overall impairment. Dr. B again wrote severe. Described below. He wrote MMSE 1030, CD 0/4. Her primary care doctor, Dr. Y, stated memory, cognitive, and executive functioning, overall impairment, moderate. Okay? Failed mini-cog, disoriented to year and date, 0 of 7 is, I guess, was the results of the test. But again, however, their answers are conflicting. One states severe, one states moderate. And again, their explanations, although they had explanations of whatever they stated, they still are different answers. On the fluctuation, symptoms vary in frequency, severity, or duration. One doctor, Dr. B, wrote yes. Dr. Y wrote no. Dr. Y wrote no, and he did not put any explanation. Dr. B, who wrote yes, he was with sundowning as reported. Okay? As reported by who? Okay? Everyday functioning. Dr. B, which is the one-day doctor, it says the patient is capable of performing the instrumental activities of daily living, IADLs. Select all that apply. He did not check any. The first one is managing finances effectively, managing transportation needs, managing communication, such as using the telephone and mail, managing medication, and other executive functions. He said that my mother could do none. Look here. He didn't check a box, and he clearly wrote none. So that's saying that my mother can't use the telephone, okay? She can't read her mail, okay? She can't manage her medicine and other executive functions, okay? He wrote none. She could do none of those things. Now, on Dr. Y, which is her primary care doctor, he didn't even answer the question. So, therefore, that is an incomplete answer from both doctors, and it should not have been accepted in the court because it's not a completed or explained answer. The next part, the patient is capable of participating in the following civil or legal matters. Select all that apply. Signing documents, retaining legal counsel, participating in legal proceedings, or others. He wrote none. Again, her primary care doctor did not answer the question. I guess he didn't really want to participate in this process, but somehow he was trying to satisfy my sister some kind of way. But this is not a complete answer, and it should not have been accepted.